tuperos y tuperas, welcome here to Duke by the River. No, we are not on, well, we'll be on YouTube, but this is the first podcast edition of Duke by the River. Guys, I'm excited. We are going to have a fun-packed Duke by the River, and it's going to be a little bit different. We got some new people on here, but guys, I am so ready to get this started, guys. Let's get this started, shall we? I think so. That is right, guys. Welcome, everyone, to Duke by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union, and this is a Philly Sports Network production here, guys. I'm one of your hosts, El Parcero Philly, and today, guys, I'm going to introduce you to the new team here on Duke by the River. It is the Union Philly Sports Network team, and guys, I can't tell you how much I'm excited, but let's get this started here. Let's introduce you to Tim Lovinguth. Tim, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, guys, I'm doing all right.
You ready, Tim?
Oh, yeah.
This is long overdue for you, buddy.
I know. I'm excited. I'm excited not to be like the main host for this type of thing either. It's not really my forte. You're a lot better at this than I am.
I appreciate that, Tim. But no, man, this is going to be a great partnership. All right, next up, guys, I have for you an actual great Philly voice here. Jeff Green, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, John? How you doing?
Look at that thick ass. I love it. That's what we need here, baby. Let's go. You ready, Jeff?
Is it that obvious?
You know me. I love it, man.
You know what? This offseason has been way too long. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Let's do it. And, guys, next up we have one of the best writers in the Unionverse, I like to say. My man, Matt McClain. Matt, what's going on, brother?
Hey, John, you're too kind. I appreciate you having me on, and this is really exciting for us to get going here.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, I'm so excited to hear those words get turned into some nice words out loud. So this is going to be fun here. And then last but not least, guys, you already know him. He is the GOAT. He is the Godfather, Mr. Liam Jenkins. Liam, what's going on, brother?
I'm good. I'm keeping up my 100% track record of gate crashing the first episode of every podcast we ever make ever. So, I'm doing great. I can't wait to get into it.
Guys, I will let you know Liam is actually in England right now, so it's right now it's around 2 o'clock, right? Is that right, Liam?
1:52 at the minute, yes. So I'm all good.
1:52. So he is an absolute trooper, and that's why he is the GOAT there. But thank you so much, guys. This truly means the world for me. Just seeing where Duke by the River started from day one in my room with a bunch of bookshelves, a GoPro, and just me trying to, be a passionate Philly fan, but happens to talk about the Union. And that really, you don't see that a lot these days. But the fact of the matter is this team is growing, this sport is growing in this city, and I have the perfect team with me to help this growth with the Philadelphia Union. But guys, I just wanted to take this episode to just dive into introducing ourselves. I want you guys to familiarize yourselves with us because, we're going to be talking all season long, and I just want you guys to just know us deep more than just, guys on a podcast here. So, obviously, I will start off here. Of course, you guys know me as El Parcero Philly. I've done this for about a year now, and the only real reason why I wanted to do this was because I just wanted to show Philadelphia that, a passionate Latino can like soccer, and Philly can be a 5-sport city. That has been my goal since day one, and that's why I put in the work I do into this. That's why I spew so much passion into this, and the fact that we got this podcast here, it really goes to show, how big you Union fans are, and it's going to be great. As far as how I got into the Union here, guys, my story is a lot like, many kids my age. When the Union came around, I was around 15 years old. I remember the soccer kid in my class told me, "Hey, man, the Philly's getting an MLS team, and they're playing tonight. Yo, you gotta watch." And I was like, "Philly's getting an MLS team? Stop messing with me, man. I waited too long for this." he was correct. It was Philly versus Seattle. It was a late night game. I remember sneaking downstairs. There was no TV allowed during the week in my household, so I snuck downstairs while everyone was asleep, and I watched that first game, and I fell in love right off the bat because it's easy. It's Philadelphia, the city I love to death, and it is the sport that is in my blood. Being Colombian American, you guys know Colombians are a little bit crazy when it comes to soccer, but that is about how I got into the Union. But enough about me, guys. You've heard me talk enough. Let's hear my team. Tim, let's start off with you. Tim, what is your role with PSN? How did you get into the Union? Let's hear about you, Tim.
All right, yeah. So I got into PSN here it's been like almost 5 years now, which is crazy to think. It was back in 2014 when I first joined. Just as a writer and kind of, worked up. Now I'm, helping editing and doing some other stuff here with us. But my journey with the Union is pretty interesting. They came out their first year when I was in high school as well. And I was paying attention, I was also playing soccer at the time, but I wasn't like an avid fan. I was just I would watch the games on TV and that kind of stuff. And then it wasn't until college where I was getting, more into the sport. And I ended up, some season ticket rep found my number somewhere and gave me a call and was like, "Hey, do you want to come out to some games this year?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, sure. Why not? Let me go." And ended up getting in the River End as well, and then becoming a season ticket holder. This was all before PSN. And then, after going to matches consistently and really learning more about the Union and the game itself of soccer, I wanted to, merge my passion for writing and for the Union together. And then I found out about this, at the time, newer website, Philly Sports Network, and I messaged this guy, Liam Jenkins, I think, on Twitter, and then the rest has kind of been history. It's been a fun ride. The first year I got to cover the Union for PSN, they weren't very good. So it was a lot of ranting about how I wish they could just put a few passes together. But now it's been a lot better, especially last year. So yeah, no, I'm excited for this journey, and I'm excited to get to the 2020 season here.
Awesome. No, so you were hooked. Did you pay attention that first year in 2010 at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was definitely paying attention.
Okay.
I would watch games on TV,
Gotcha.
But I wasn't going down to the stadium. I went to
Gotcha.
one game in the first year. I think it was. I went to see them play LA Galaxy when David Beckham was there. Because I was like, well, I'm gonna go see David Beckham play. So that was pretty cool. And then I was kind of hooked to going, and I think that's how the Union got my phone number and got me kind of started on that trend too. But yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Like I said, everyone's story is unique. It's different, but it's, at the end of the day, we just got that love for the Union. All right, Jeff, let's hear you, buddy. So let's hear what's your role with PSN and how'd you get into the Union?
Well, I mean, this is a long story, but since we're all on, I'm going to make it kind of short. My eventual ex-wife's friend was the Union's first VP of communications.
Oh, sure.
And he contacted her, and they just wanted anybody to come down there, so they just basically gave us some tickets. And I wasn't just indifferent about soccer. I didn't really like it, but honestly I didn't give it a chance. And we went down to a game and I loved it and just kept going back. Had season tickets for a few years. And then I guess it was maybe fall 2017. And I had been reading, different publications, on the Union. I was really into them. And then it was fall 2017. I saw an ad. It might have been on Facebook. And it was, to be a Union writer for this Philly Sports Network. And I contacted Liam, and we set up a call. And speaking of accents, I'm not the only one here with an accent. Because after the first time I spoke with him, I told my wife the next day, I think he liked me, but I really couldn't understand half of what he was saying. but it took me a few times, so I do understand what he's saying now.
I'm glad we got that a few years later, right?
Now, Jeff, that's a great story, and that's one of the that's the stories I want to continue hearing. Is Jeff, you grew up in this area, you followed the other sports in Philly, and the fact that you allowed this other team to come into your life to the point that you wanted to decide to write about the team. Those are the stories that I want to keep hearing. That's why I want to continue, pushing the narrative that Philly should be the fifth sport in Philadelphia. That's a great story. Thank you so much, Jeff.
No problem.
All right, next up, my man Matt. Matt, let's hear it. What is your role with PSN, and how did you get into the Union, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm one of the lead soccer writers for the site. I played soccer pretty much my whole life. I gave up the sport shortly before high school, mainly because I was pretty lazy. I didn't want to keep up with the conditioning.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I was a defender, so I never really had the great footwork, but I always enjoyed playing and following the sport. And then oddly enough, my dad ended up getting a job down at the stadium in the guest services department when it first started. And I was looking for a summer gig in high school and college. So I ended up working there. So if anybody goes down to the stadium and you see the guys or guys or girls in the red polo collared shirts, they mainly work at each section, kind of direct people where to go. That was my gig. So I was really close with the team and just kind of what went down at the stadium and kind of fell in love with the atmosphere there. And in college, I was studying history and constantly writing, and always had in the back of my mind a passion for sports and following what other publications were writing about, not only soccer, but every other major sport. And started writing soccer with PhillySoccerPage.com. Shout out to them. They're a great site.
Amazing site. Love those guys.
Yep. Really learned how to kind of craft professional pieces and put a story together, and worked on interviewing skills. And then I guess a couple months after I started with them, I agreed to just kind of mutually part ways with them, and then reached out to Liam at Philly Sports Network and Tim as well. And it's kind of just been home ever since. And then really looking forward to my third, hopefully full season with the credential, and really just trying to stay consistent with our coverage and kind of just seeing where it goes from there.
Nah, Matt, honestly, man, you've been killing it with your writing. I'm always showing the love because, dude, you're really killing it. You're one of the guys that we absolutely need. But thank you so much for coming on. Putting the words on the paper to the mic is great to finally hear there. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. This is a great little perk in my week here.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, I guess I gotta ask him. Liam. So what's your role with PSN?
I don't even know what my role is anymore, because it's just everything. I started off, I was like, I'm an Eagles writer, this is fine, and then it became I'm suddenly covering all 5 teams, this is fine. And then, obviously it grew over time, and the YouTube channel happened, and as the family got bigger and bigger, and the responsibilities grew, obviously being able to go full-time with it last year, I think it's a manager role now, but I'm sort of I'd much rather be in the trenches with you guys, so to speak. I'd rather be making content than sitting back and doing nothing, because I hate that. So I basically do everything, I think. But not in a horrible way, but it says the whole back end of the site and all the marketing and advertising and emails and trying to keep everyone happy and motivated, and then obviously the content itself. So a bit of everything, but I've been doing it for 6 years now, so that makes me sound real. I'm only 24, but it makes me sound really old when I say that. And I'm sure, for most people, the PSN story is well known. It was just me in a bedroom, and I don't want to, hopefully bore anyone listening, but I will say the Union story, because I've never actually said my Philadelphia Union story, because I was actually an MLS fan before I started PSN. Because obviously, and I hate to bring up his name, and I hope you don't kick me off the podcast for it, but there's one former Charlton player who's my childhood team who played in the MLS, and that man's Bradley Wright Phillips, and he,
Oof,
I know. So it always had my intrigue, the league, and then when I made
it's okay now.
Huh?
He's an LAFC. It's okay now. He's at LAFC, so
we can let him off the hook. But there are like a couple other players as well that made the journey across, and I always found it really intriguing because in England, the MLS seemed to get a really bad rap, especially in its early stage. I say early stages, maybe like the early 2010s, just for becoming like in inverted brackets the retirement home league. And I was like, well, that's not true because you don't understand the drive, you don't understand all the other things that go in the background of it, and there's some really promising talent. And when you watch it, like me being a Charlton fan, I'm used to Championship and League One level football. The MLS was just as scrappy, just as hungry, just as exciting, but just because it didn't have the star power that some of the major European leagues did, it didn't get the coverage over here and was like disregarded by a lot of fans, which I didn't like. So when I started PSN, I was like, well, I'm going to cover the Union. Like, I mean, the sport I know most about by far is soccer, so I'm going to start covering that. And I kind of developed an affinity with the team through that. Like, I knew of the MLS, I knew the teams and how it all worked and the backbone of it. But in terms of a team that was young at the time, it was only 3 or 4 years into its, only lifespan, really, learning about the Sons of Ben and obviously how they came to be and the passion that really fueled the, I guess, origins of that team. And then looking at the actual players and guys like Sebastian Latou, who would go on to become a club legend. And I remember, I'm not sure if you remember, Tim, but we had our first ever interview with Zach Pfeffer.
Yep.
Back in the day, yeah. And even that, it became really like, this is something you can relate to, and it's accessible, and it's not suddenly a million miles away or out of reach, or you're sat in stands so far you can't make out what's going on. Like, the players care. Like, it's a community-driven club. And I loved that. And then ever since, I've tried to keep as many tabs on them as I can. I've not been as devoted as I'd love to be, unfortunately, in recent years, just due to other, commitments with the site. But this year, unfortunately, you guys are stuck with me again. So you're going to have a lot of, a lot of British, Union content coming your way.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great point. I just wanted to ask that real quick because we do have a little time here, Liam. So, I mean, you're over in England there. So what is the state of the MLS? Like, I see MLS, like, on Copa 90, right?
Yeah.
But, like, what's the reaction now? What's, like, the outlook now in England towards the MLS?
Well, it's changed a lot, especially over the last few years. 'Cause as I said, when I first started following it, like, it had to be done on a legal stream. I mean, very legal streams, very, very legal. Nothing dodgy. Because there were no TV rights. Like, Sky Sports didn't cover it and that sort of thing, so it made it really tough to follow. And I guess back then, obviously the big names that stood out were Landon Donovan, it was David Beckham, like we mentioned earlier on. And then all of a sudden it's David Villa, it's Pirlo, and the names start getting a little bit more, oh, okay, this guy's still a bit younger, like it's not a total, like, and then Gerrard goes over, obviously. And the second Steven Gerrard does anything, the English media laps it up. So the coverage started to become a lot more fluent. And then I think Sky Sports 3 started showing games. And I think now, it helps that FIFA exists in a really awkward way because you get to learn about the players. And when they put out challenges for Ultimate Team and stuff, you're naturally forced to find these players and go, oh my god, yeah, he's really good at FIFA and he scored this goal in real life. And it's the whole social media thing. And there was a blaze, I think, recently of young fans seeing marketable teams like LAFC, for instance, having the YouTube thing as a sponsor, right? Like it pertains to a certain demographic. So over the last few years, it's gone from MLS being seen as a retirement home to a genuine place where players of all ages want to go and play, and younger players want to go out and get experience out there. And you're seeing that a lot more now. Like, I mean, there are numerous English players that went out in the draft, and there's one name I won't mention, but went in the Super Draft and come through, and it's really interesting. Like, it's becoming a league where, with the help of the NFL growing over here, and with baseball getting international games, the TV coverage is growing, and people are seeing that it's not just a football league with older players, it's a football league with a very different rule set, essentially, in the draft and the way players are allocated and the salary cap. And the quality of football, while it's not going to be like Champions League level, there's just as much drive, there's just as much shock and excitement factor and heartbreaking moments and euphoric moments. And obviously the Union had their first real playoff experience, and that ended in ultimately heartbreak. But the one before that, in the ultimate euphoria, in that kind of extra time winner, like, it was amazing. So I think now we're seeing those moments hit social media and everyone's timelines, that it's becoming a valid league and people want to pay attention, which for me is all I could ever ask for.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that is definitely a great point. Now, Liam, over here in Philly, in America in general, like we do get like the European fans. They like to call them the Euro snobs, who like to tear up their local MLS club. Just because we all know, we all know Europe has the best quality of soccer, but the fact of the matter is, MLS is something different. It's American. It's in a season where it's not interfering too much with the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, all those big leagues. So what I tell people is it's fun, it's different, it's improving, and it's in your backyard. So why not jump along with this?
I think the one thing that stands out to me, and I think everyone on this call can vouch for this as well, is that every MLS team's group of fans is different, and that's the one thing that stands out. Yep. It's like, I mean, even in England, all right, you've got fans that sing different songs, which is great. And I know English fans love to really hate on MLS fans because New York made that manufactured song list for some reason. But like, I think when you look at it, at the end of the day, all fans are the same in England. It's like you go down, you support your club, you sing a bit, you come home. In America, you look at the Sons of Ben and the work they do. You look at what happens in Seattle. You look at what happens in Portland with the big... It's not a baguette, I don't want to be rude to it, but it's the big chainsaw cut bread thing. But it's really cool. Like, every time you watch a game, there's a very different atmosphere. And you can see that's raw passion. That's fan passion that's driving the game forward. And it's something, honestly, I don't think England has much of anymore. Like, you see so much in the way of, like, I think, plastic fans for the bigger teams in Europe and that kind of thing. And atmosphere is drying up. Where, like, luckily with my little team, like Charlton, that we're not in that spot. But for a lot of the bigger teams, you get that. Like, seeing MLS, where every fan base has their own little quirk, so to speak, or their own little area that makes them special. I love that, and I think that I just wish, more teams would adopt it, or more, I guess, like, more bigger leagues could have that same sense of, oh, that's a Serie A game, that's a La Liga game. I think the more, like, you go to Brazil or Colombia or, like, Denmark or somewhere where it's a bit more raw and passionate, you get it. But for somewhere like England that prides itself on heritage, like, you don't get it anywhere near as much as MLS, which is newer, fresher, and the passion so much raw. Like, I love it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the best part too, is that every culture, every country has their own quirks, and that's what makes the game so beautiful, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, you know what? That's enough about us. You guys know a little bit about us. We figured this is the first episode. We're kind of in an awkward time because we're close to the season, but we still got like 2 weeks legitimately until our season starts. So I figured, guys, let's just talk about the big moves that happened this off season. Let's just let's let people hear our actual thoughts on those moves. Now, I want to start off with I believe it was the first move, and that was the signing of Jose El Brujo Martinez. Now, I was blessed enough to have an interview with Juper Ruiz down in Venezuela, where Brujo is from, and he actually covers Zula FC, the club of Jose Andres. And just talking to him, I felt comfortable knowing the type of quality of player we got in El Brujo Martinez. He from what we're kind of seeing that now in training now in preseason. He's that relentless type of defender in the midfield, who's the type of guy who's going to win the ball close to our end line, and he's going to turn it into a quick transition. So I'm excited for this signing. He definitely seems he's going to need some seasoning. He's going to need to learn a little bit about the MLS game as well as learn some English, as we all saw in the kit reveal party. But I'm excited for him just to see his future. We're seeing the influx of Venezuelan players in MLS, and I'm just hoping that El Brujo can continue the tradition of good Venezuelan play in the MLS. What's your guys' thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in and just say, I think he is kind of, right now a depth piece until we can see a little bit more.
Yeah.
Me personally, only being able to see one stream has been a little, hard to judge any of these new players. Yeah. But he comes into a spot that has open competition now that Harris Medunjanin is gone. And he, like you said, he's defense first. So I think, if he can really be that active defender in front of the back line, he'll be able to, show us something we haven't seen in a while in that position. So it'll be definitely interesting to see.
Yeah.
I think just really quickly, because I don't want to obviously, jump in and cut anyone off. And I think, like Tim said, it's
go ahead, Liam, go ahead.
Size, like, we can't see, like a great deal outside of like what he's done previously or the odd stream that we see now. With scrimmages being closed off, it doesn't help either. But from again, someone that maybe hasn't watched the team as much as I'd have liked to, the one transition I noticed last year was the role that Chibilko played up front, and actually having that, almost that holding forward in a way, that someone to just sit on the front line of defenders, like almost as opposed to a pressing forward or someone like that, someone that can just sit there, lie deep and wait on those balls. And I think that in a lot of ways, that Albrugia, like the skill set that we've seen from before, and like even just his stats and stuff, again, I know there's not a lot to go off, but if they can mould him in that way to be that link between the defensive midfielder and arguably what you've got on the wings or the more attacking-minded centre mids, it's difficult. But I think that if you'd have had this 2 or 3 years ago, the move may not have made as much sense. But seeing the role that Chibilko now has and the support he needs to get that ball into the box, that's exactly the kind of two-way player you want that can, essentially win a ball and then push it up the field with ease.
Yeah, I'll jump in here as well. I mean, Martinez, from what I saw in the Montreal game, is exciting on the ball, but one thing I did notice for sure is his speed. And one thing Harris did not have was just recovery speed. So if he's caught forward last year, he's kind of running back and pointing at who needs to go where. Whereas Martinez, he can actually sprint back and put out a fire. And that's one thing Jim Curtin mentioned too, is he may be a little bit more free in his style of play coming from South America to the MLS, specifically with the Union system. But what he can do as an anchor in the defensive midfield role should help a lot. And right now he said it's not too clear on who's ahead of who when comparing him to Oravich or Orovic. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. But
it's all good.
From what I saw, Martinez looks promising. It might be more of like a longer term project, but he did look confident in the scrimmage that we were able to see.
By you, Jeff, got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the change, from last season and previous seasons at that position is just so glaring. I mean, last year you had Harris and you had, I guess you would say Warren Craval was the backup, and you had two of the older, slower guys on the team, and now you have two, Oravich isn't as nearly as fast as Martinez, but you basically, you're totally changing it up from, a few guys that are slower pace and older to guys that are younger, stronger, and can fly all over. So I'm excited just to see that change.
Yeah, and I've said this plenty of times. During the Atlanta game, when we got eliminated, I noticed, because obviously we all know the speed that Atlanta possesses, especially in that stadium. And I felt like our midfield just could not hold up with the battle in the midfield, and I felt like the Union needed to go on this mission to try to make the midfield younger, faster, and stronger, and I feel as right now, they have done that. But let's move on to the next signing, which I'm not sure if it was the re-signing or the actual signing, but I'm going to go with Mr. Sexy Season. Matish Orovic, I believe, is the correct pronunciation. But, first off, if it doesn't work out on the field with Matish, let's just say he gave us one of the most special offseason moments in Union history. This Sexy Season will be lived on forever. And shouts out to my man Lenny at the kit release party. He actually was ballsy enough to get the 69 Sexy Season shirt. and that's literally, no matter how it turns out, Orovic, that's how we're going to remember him, his lasting legacy with the Philadelphia Union. But, to me, it seems like this guy, from what I hear, I haven't really seen him play, but it sounds like he's Harris Meduninen with the passing, but he actually is faster, plays defense. So that to me is definitely exciting, and that's, I think, the reason why he will start at the 6 over El Brujo come match day 1 against Dallas. But what do you guys think about Mr. Sexy Season?
Yeah, I'll jump in again here. I think he could be the new signing of the offseason. I don't think he'll be, he'll have. I don't know if he'll have as much impact as Jamiro will coming back here now that he re-signed. But I think, Orovech has, I think he's the starter at the 6. And I think if he is a more defensive-minded and faster version of Harris Madunianen, or at least the role he played in the last few years for the Union, then the Union will definitely be in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm with Tim there. I really think he will get the starting nod, at least from the get-go. Just because, if he, is more similar to Harris than Martinez, and Jim absolutely loved Harris, if he sees anything in him that reminds him of Harris, he'll go with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, from what Curtin has said, it seems like he has kind of a contrasting style of play compared to Martinez, where Martinez may, like I said, be more free in his offensive ideas. Orovich maybe has like a calmer mind on the ball, so there's probably less prone to errors and turnovers. So if he can have more of a defensive-minded guy who can be a real solid guy to sit above the back 4, then I would definitely go with Orovich at the 6 to start, just to see how it goes.
I think we could possibly see El Brujo come out more if we do ever go to those 4-2-3-1s. Maybe if he can play along another defensive mid, he can be able to, move. Because it seems like he wants to get the ball, create the turnover, and then move the ball up, and then eventually make that pass. So that's probably what will be his role. All right, let's move on to the next move, which many people weren't too excited about it, but how can you not? The re-signing of Jamiro Monteiro. He got the deal he wanted, and he played fantastic last season. Name me another player who was better than Jamiro Monteiro all season long last year, and he got the number. He even got the number 10. He's now the number 10 for the Philadelphia Union. So I'm really happy to get Jamiro back. Obviously, when you talk about big contracts, you always have to worry if the player's still going to play as hard, because obviously when you're playing for a contract, you play hungry. That's always a concern. Do you guys have any concerns that Jamiro might not play as hard as he did last season? Sorry.
I'll jump right in and say absolutely not. From what I've learned about him through speaking with his agent and just Jim Curtin as well, he's a highly motivated player, and to take a year off just because he got paid doesn't really seem like it would fit his narrative. I really think he wants to come in and become a top 5 player, if not the most impactful player in the entire league, because ultimately it seems like his goal career-wise is to not stay here. He wants to be sold again and continue maybe going overseas to a higher level than he was at before coming here.
Yeah, I'm with Matt there. I think before his injury last season, Montero was on his way to becoming an all-star. It was almost a sure thing. He was playing so well, and then Kleshman took him out, and then the season kind of changed at that point. So I think he's coming back hungry for a full season, and I agree with Matt. If he's healthy the entire season and plays his game, I'd say definitely a top 10 player in the league.
That's interesting. And again, Montero is one of the players that I knew had a bit of European background just because at the time, I think it was 2017, he was playing in the Dutch, the top of the Dutch league. And just from Football Manager again, that's where most of my football knowledge is kind of come from today's video. But that was where I first kind of noticed him. And then going over to watch highlights and stuff, and I know he went on loan to, I think it was FC Metz, wasn't it, in League 2?
Yeah.
For a bit, yeah.
Not the New York Mets, FC Mets.
Yeah, not the New York Mets, no. Although, he might be good there as well. You never know. Starting centre fielder. But genuinely, I think you see the progression he's gone through of kind of going from being almost a role player on that team in I was going to say Dutchland, and that's not right. You can say it's late. Then going over to France in League 2, now becoming a key player in the MLS. It depends where his head's at. If he wants to go on and get back overseas into Europe and maybe look at even League 1 or beyond that or the Eredivisie or whatever it may be, then fine. But at the same time, that you get attached to that. You see players do that all the time, where like they put themselves in a deal, and I mean, like Charlton have had an example with Lyle Taylor, came in, prove it deal, 30 years old, and has played his ball, and it's like you can't fault him whether he wants to stay in the league or not. The fact that he gives his all every time he's on the pitch, that's why he's there. What happens after that deal's done is irrelevant. The fact that to even that like a possibility, he's got to do the immediate thing in front of him, which is play his heart out. And I think the Union have absolutely done the right thing in rewarding someone that very much became the heartbeat of that team last year. And if he can do it again, then there is no reason they can't have just as much success, if not more success, than they did in 2019.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And I can't remember if this is 100% true or not, but I think Jamiro had some suitors over in the championship in England. I have to double check on that, but he chose the Union. He chose that he wanted to come back to the Union, and I'm super excited to have him back. He was definitely one of, if not the most important player on the pitch for the Union last year, in the way that he can kind of link up play, and Curtin kind of said it in his press conference this week. The team kind of moves as Jamiro moves, so that'll be really important going into this season. The Union fans always shout that they want a DP signing, and Jamiro is that DP signing. Like it happened. It just so happened that he was here a year before, so he's not a fresh new face, but he's that DP signing. Like he's that important player.
Isn't that better though? Do you think? Like, we're just asking you guys from like a generic perspective. So would you rather have a DP come in that, let's say, maybe played in Spain or Germany or somewhere else, that has come in to bring that almost star power to the team and be that elite caliber player, not knowing the culture of the MLS and what's needed to succeed? Because I think a lot of people take it for granted. You see that fairly often, like people come into the MLS thinking they can take a backseat and work less. I mean, I know someone from my own town that used to play for West Brom, that went out and played for the Tampa Bay Rowdies, took it complacent, thinking it was in Florida. It's easy, it's Florida, right? And then is now working at a supermarket because he genuinely took it for granted. So, like, would you rather someone go over off the back of whatever they've achieved, or someone come in for a year and earn that status? Because I think I'd much prefer seeing what Jamiro's done, where he knows what's needed to play in Philadelphia. He knows what the fans are like. He knows the team around him. And if he's been made a centre point of that, then that's exactly what a DP should be. It's not like a kind of punt and hope he can live up to this form of quality. It's we know what he's done for us before. Let's reward him with that status sort of thing.
Well, I know that Union Hockey right now is at the Philly airport waiting for Mario Balotelli, so that's his stance. No, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think we maybe saw a bit of that last year with Marco Fabian. It's some guy they kind of pulled in maybe to be more of a marketing stint, high-dollar signing. Sure, he produced a lot, scored some huge goals, but there were times where you maybe caught yourself questioning, is this guy really putting all of his effort out there on the field? Is he working to his best of his abilities with the teammates to create chemistry? But with Jamiro, it kind of seems like he came from Mets, where he was kind of excluded from the starting 11 and really wanted a fresh start and a chance to kind of reboost his career. And for the franchise to acknowledge that, find the money to keep him here and then spend it, it kind of speaks volumes to the kind of player he is and just how impactful he could be in 2020.
No, I mean, yeah, like, you're seeing in the MLS, the trend is not going after your Steven Gerrards, your David Beckhams, those type of older players who are just looking to, have one more hurrah. Like, now the type of signing is getting guys like Jamiro Monteiro, who still has a lot to play for, he's not in his 30s. He's on the other half of 20, but he still has a lot of good years. Like, you got Miguel Almiron in Atlanta just got sold for a lot of money. You're seeing what Inter Miami is trying to do. So the direction of the MLS is trying to find those guys who are just need a little bit more developing and could possibly play for a bigger league, but they're doing it here, living in America, and I'm happy with this type of signing, and I want to continue. I want to see the Union continue making signings like this. I mean, all right, guys. I mean, obviously, I had to mention him playing hard with the big contract because, we are a Philly sports team, right? Obviously this year everyone's freaking out with Tobias Harris's contract and Al Horford's contract. We've been burned before with Ilya Brizgalov and Namdi Asma. So, of course, I had to throw that in there. But, guys, the last signing I kind of really want to talk about is Jakob Glesnes. He's a 24-year-old Norwegian center back. Guys, he's gotten some high praise so far in training. What are your thoughts here?
He's big. That's my main thought. Is he's a big
boy. Big boy.
Yeah. It's something that Mark McKenzie mentioned with me earlier this week is that his size, and not only his size but his footwork, doesn't really match what you would think of a big center back. And in the Union system, and kind of like what's kind of developing in more modern football, is that the center back has a lot more responsibility with the ball at his feet, picking his head up and picking out a pass. And from what Curtin has said, it seems like he really has that ability. And he's a guy who will really push both McKenzie and Jack Elliott for that starting spot moving forward. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to the team.
Well, Matt, let's just say, good thing that you stopped playing soccer because, center backs have to be good with their feet.
I was really bad with my feet, yeah.
What else you got, guys?
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a very interesting type of center back. I mean, just the first little bit of the Union, putting a camera on him and training in his first training stint, he has this diving header for a goal. Just we haven't seen something like that in a while, like a set piece threat from a defender coming up in the box. It'll definitely be interesting to see if he can, get some minutes, maybe when Mark McKenzie goes off with the U.S. National team for the Olympics, if they can, get through that tournament and qualify for that. But we'll see. I think he will be pushing Elliott and McKenzie for minutes, like Matt said. It's a good signing. It's a good depth signing to have a fourth center back now. We had Colin on the bench for most of last year, and that sometimes is a shaky spot to be in. Even though he's a great guy off the pitch, sometimes his play on the field is questionable. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, guys, I want to ask because you guys just said it. We have 3 quality center backs that can start for majority of the teams. From what it's looking like right now, Jakob Glesnes, these 3 guys can start for most MLS teams. The talk has been brought up. Can we go to a 3-back set? I'm looking at these 3 guys. They're good with their feet. They're solid defenders. Do you guys think that we could actually pull off a 3-back set this season?
I've always thought there was a famous saying in England, right, when it comes to 4-back, and it was mainly prominent around the World Cup a couple of years ago with England. And it's, if you roll out 3 centre backs, it's typically because you wouldn't trust your wing backs. And I don't know how much validity that would have now, because obviously we're talking about it in a bit of a different instance. But looking at the amount of emphasis that has been on wing playing, and obviously the rise of Ilsinho and being that super sub and the burst off the bench, I could see it, but it's a lot of pressure on those back 3, because then you're expecting all of them to have those same traits in a way, aren't you, really? To be able to, all of them become ball-playing defenders that can essentially zonal mark, pull back on the wings and such.
Mm-hmm.
It's tricky. I don't know. I mean, how would you guys feel about because then you're essentially taking those wing-backs out of the game in the hope that either they're not trusted and your centre-backs are better. But yeah, I don't know. I'll turn it over to you guys. My hands will be up. I don't know. Whatever works best.
I mean, I think, I think the Union are pretty well set across the back 4. So if they went to a back 3, it would be more to, accentuate the offense. And I don't know, the Jakob Glesnes signing, it kind of got overlooked, but I thought it was, that's a super important one. That's, we expect McKenzie to miss some time due to international duty. And, injuries always come during the season. And, I love Aurelian Collin, and he filled in admirably last season. But I think everyone noticed when he had to play 2 consecutive games, that second game, he was gassed.
Yeah.
So to have someone like this, it's more than an insurance policy. I think it was necessary.
Yeah, well, I'd agree. I mean, I think it's a quality signing. And you kind of think of the money they spent to bring him in. It wasn't just kind of a a Band-Aid type of signing. I think they see a potential with Jakob. And in regards to maybe they'll starting a 3-back system, I don't think they'll ever start a match that way. I think it'll be maybe something they'll transition to potentially in game.
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, to comment on is it because the fullbacks might be a liability?
All right. Well, let me just add this one last piece before we move on to the next topic. There, with the 3-back set, when the Seattle Sounders come into Talent Energy, right, and they are bunkering down, and some width attacking from out wide could really help. Maybe that's a point where a 3-back set can help us out there, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring up the 3-back set type of talk there.
Well, I'm going to echo what Matt said just because he's trying to reconnect right now. I think, what he was saying was that I don't. Hello?
Hello?
Oh.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm here too.
It's okay, I can edit all this, don't worry, it's all good.
All right. It happens.
No, I believe what Matt was saying was Curtin would never start the back 3, but if the game dictated that and that was what they needed to do, they would make that change at some point. But I don't think he would ever actually start a game with 3 in the back.
Well, yeah. So I brought up the 3-back set too because when the MLS champs Seattle Sounders come into Talent Energy and they're bunkering down, and I felt as if at that moment we should how can we attack when a team's bunkering down? Most times people will say, widen out the field, attack from out wide. And I feel maybe a 3-back set could help in certain situations like that Seattle and like that Portland game as well. Or Colorado, sorry, Colorado and Seattle game.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, it's definitely an option kind of going, late in games, I think is probably the tactic there that why, Jim Curtin keeps bringing it up is, it's something that they'll probably switch to late on in games, like how they switched to the 4-2-3-1 last year. They just have more versatility now, so they can attack teams a little bit differently in different situations at different times in games.
Awesome. All right, guys. So those were the signings for the offseason for your Philadelphia Union. I wanted to ask one more question here, guys, for you. Who on this team needs to prove something to you? I feel like as if there's a couple players on this team that, need to prove something to us. So I want to ask you guys, who do you feel on the Union roster needs to prove something to you?
I'll jump in. I'll say Sergio Santos, and I know he's gotten a lot of hype. He's gotten a lot of hype the past week and a half. I think he needs to stay healthy, and if he does stay healthy, he'll probably show all of us exactly why he was brought here. The speed, the explosiveness, the ability to finish within the box, and just his hunger kind of seems very evident in the way he plays. And I'm really excited to see him get another full offseason under his belt and maybe stay healthy and work with Casper, who apparently, according to Curtin, they're developing a pretty special bond, and really excited to see what he can do.
And he's got the dreads now too.
Yeah, he has pretty neat hair. Yeah.
What about you, Tim? Who needs to prove to you, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with another starter. I think Brendan Aronson needs to
Ooh, that's a good one.
Brendan Aronson needs to show me a little bit more this year. I know he's a young kid coming through the system. He got his first national team call-up and everything. But I think that a lot of the heavy midfield load there is going to be put on his shoulders. And he needs to show – I mean, he showed that he can – he can ball out at times, but he needs to really tune in the final third, get a few more key passes together, shoot a little bit more maybe. But yeah, I think it's Brendan Aronson for me.
I mean, Tim, let's face it too. Like, I hate to say it, but like the face of our youth academy is on Brendan. Like, no one in our youth academy has really, performed the way Brendan did last season. So we've all talked about how much our owner Sugarman has put into the youth academy, right? We want to develop those youngsters so we can eventually sell them off. And Brandon right now is leading the pack for that. So that's definitely a good one. What about you, Jeff? Who needs to prove it to my man Jeff?
Well, you know what? I agree with Matt saying Santos and Tim saying Aronson, but if I had to pick another, I'd go with Wooten. I mean,
my one.
Yeah. He's.
I was thinking that one too.
he's I think we expected a lot from him. He didn't get a ton of opportunity, but in those opportunities, he really didn't show much at all. And now with Santos, Shabilko, DeVries, Galena, if he really doesn't show something early, we might not see him the entire season.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great one. I mean, I've said this too. Like, listen, Wooten came in at the wrong time. Yes, he came in the middle of the season. But we were all sold that this was a guy from Bundesliga 2 who was a goal scoring machine, and he really wasn't that. He was great off the ball, but he didn't seem like he could put the ball in the back of the net, and fitness was a question at a time as well. So there's a lot riding on Wooten because let's face it, if Wooten doesn't perform this season, his ass is out of Philly.
Oh, no doubt.
All right, so I 100% agree with you. What about you, Liam? I know Jeff took your guy, but you got anyone else in mind?
Yeah, Jeff stole mine. I thought I've got a really good one there. No one's going to pick Wooten, and then if I'm honest, I think the one thing that stood out when you were talking about the defense and obviously the academy and bringing guys through to try and shift them, a guy that he's not necessarily under pressure, because I think Aurelian Collin actually showed us quite a lot last year and actually on the field, but he's 33 years old now, and he's going to be in a situation where I think that having played for a variety of different clubs, I know he spent time at Orlando, and I think Red Bull's most prominent recently. You've now got, as we said, 3 very, very good centre-backs. You've got a lot of young guys as well. Like Mark McKenzie is going to be the only way into minutes because he's going to be off doing international duty and becoming a wonder kid. Outside of that, if he doesn't shine in those moments, you can get plug-and-play defenders very cheap elsewhere, and that's essentially what he's been. So if he doesn't come in and make a significant impact in those moments, we don't know when those breaks are going to be just yet, or if it's going to be a big win for the Union, or a big game, or a big moment that he's going to be asked to come in and almost hold the fort down, as opposed to a letdown hey, I'm just going to run out to the shops, you need anything? As opposed to that, it's going to be, oh my god, the world's going to burn if you don't get me this. Do you know what I mean? So I think until we see that, he's very much going to be on the bubble of a player that could be on the move next season, because you're right, it's all about the youth movement. It's all about getting younger, faster at centre-back, finding new ways to get them involved in the game, like we mentioned, and playing those balls forward to what's seeming to be a much more fluid midfield. So that's going to be a guy that I think in those few moments where there isn't going to be an Elliott or a McKenzie, that he's going to come in and we're either going to see a significant drop in performance, and if we don't, then we're going to be all right, maybe we can keep him around a little bit longer sort of thing.
That's a good one. I was definitely you pulled that one out of the hat. I like that, Liam. I like that.
That was on the spot.
Guys,
Jeff ruined my day. So
well, guys, I'm going to go with one I can't believe you guys actually forgot, and that is Mr. Drip Drip, the Mr. Fresh Kicks, Anthony Fontana. Yeah. Now listen, with Mr. Fontana, he kind of was Brandon Aronson before Brandon Aronson. He got a goal in his first match, right? And we've seen sparks from Anthony. He looks good so far in this preseason. But I see a guy, and guys, I'm pulling for Anthony, right? He to me, he can be the backup between Aronson and Montero. Preferably me. I would put him in at the left shuttle midfielder. But he's a guy, again, who's part of that youth academy. And he's a guy who did have promise, and the youth academy's riding on him as well. So to me, I need Fontana to step up, be a man, essentially, and take on that backup role for Aronson and Montero. That's who's got to prove it to me.
And it's interesting you say that, John, because I spoke with him earlier this offseason, and he doesn't really aimed to be a backup, and I think he's a guy who could really, really challenge to be in the starting 11.
Exactly.
And I'm pulling for him as well. He's always a very positive figure within the locker room, off the field, on the field. So anytime he gets on the field, he looks like he brings a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and this is what the team needs. So, I'll be looking out for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about picking him, for this question, but as far as has something to prove, I mean, when he goes out there, he usually does prove it, but for some reason, he's just not in the starting lineup.
I at least want some more minutes, like to honestly take that Marco Fabian role, that third guy. That's what I want from Fontana. All right, guys. Well, any last thoughts here before we close out this first episode?
Yeah, I think I wanted to just throw out a question for you guys. Are you worried at all about the injury news to Kai Wagner? I mean, I'm not too worried just because I think Matt Real can easily handle the starting job, as a plug-and-play guy. But I just thought the way the news of the injury originally broke was that it was a simple knock, and now he's been out for about 2 weeks. I didn't know if you guys had any worries about that.
I wonder where I've seen that before. It's almost like Philadelphia's got a bit of a... it's just every Eagles injury ever. Right, got it. Right.
I literally thought the same thing, Liam. Like, it's got to be Philly thing. Like, something's in the water here. Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a little concerning when a guy says, when it's told that it's a nick, right, and he's missing now 2 weeks. Of course, you're going to be concerned, but I mean, it is the beginning of the season, like you said. Matt Real, he definitely can. You can plug him in there. He can take on that role. I feel as if. So yeah, let's just not rush this. Make sure he's recovering. He's doing everything he needs to do to recover. And he comes out when he comes out, honestly.
Yeah. For me, I'm not worried right now, this minute. But if it's this time next week and it's still, we have no real update, he's just still out injured, then I might be a little bit worried. I think Matt Real will be a great player if he has to start. But I don't know, we haven't seen that he can be a consistent starter week in, week out. So if we don't get any kind of update on Wagner, or there's no, he's not in training or not in preseason matches, it might be a little concerning. Like a week from now.
Talk about proving themselves. Definitely Matt Real.
Here's a sorry, John.
No, go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
I mean, here's a scenario that's possible. I mean, say Real just plays out of his mind, a la Jack Elliott, and keeps that spot the whole season.
Yeah, that could happen.
That's not a bad problem, guys.
It's not a bad problem, but I mean, I love Wagner in that role, but I'm glad we have Real back there.
Yeah, for sure.
Depth is the key to everything, guys. Ask Liam, you ask all of us. We're all Eagles fans.
Yeah.
Don't bring me back PTSD. I've just got over last season. Let's not go back there.
Well, Matt Real could be Greg Ward, Liam.
Why you put it like that? I'll go on to my... Okay, right, here's the question, right? I want to pitch a question to you guys now, if I can. Now,
sure.
Obviously, so I mentioned before that we're going to be doing a lot of live streams. So if you're new to the podcast, what we really want to do are live watch-alongs. So if you can't get to a game or it's not on television or you can't access it, then you can watch it with us, or you can mute the TV stream and watch it with us. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of personal stuff. You can basically become one big happy Union family. My problem is I need to get a Union jersey and I don't know who I get on the back of it.
Yeah.
Right. Now, do I go Latu and just go for... It's like you're Brian Dawkins, isn't it? It's like you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Do you go for the new superstar designated player? Do you go for a wonder kid? I mean, like, give me a suggestion each, and I'll contemplate them and surprise you next show, because I'm on the edge. I've been thinking about a few.
That's a good one. I would say Latu. I think you can't go wrong with Latu.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Latu, but are you still able to get former players?
I'll have to eBay it, but beggars can't be choosers. So I'll find a way.
That's a good point. Very good point. I mean, for me, you guys know how passionate I am of being Colombian. So when Ali Bedoya got signed to Philly, like there was no other jersey I was going to buy. And you know what, too, like the point with Ali, despite, my connection with him with being Colombian, like he has truly embraced Philadelphia. Like his, like the way his demeanor, the way he presents himself, it is Philly. The passion he demonstrates on the pitch, like it is really Philly. So, I mean, if I had to go with someone, definitely on this team, it'd definitely be Ali Bedoya.
See, I was thinking that as well, and obviously you came out and had after the US women's national team success, like grabbed the microphone and like I loved that kind of fire. The fact everyone stood behind him, and that was cool. So that's up there. That's a suggestion. I like it. We're on 2 out of 2 so far. I'll have to get 5 jerseys at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you could always get that England connection with Jack Elliott.
I was gonna say the same. Yeah, that's a good one. He's good too. He's definitely. Oh, I love Jack Elliott.
Oh, did he used to play for Chelsea? Was he on Chelsea's books?
No one in England wanted him. He came to America. He went to college.
Went to West Virginia.
On Chelsea's books, or am I imagining things? I swear. I'll find out for next week. I swear there was an MLS player that was on Chelsea's books and then jumped to MLS and did well.
No, he went straight from college.
He went to the same school Russell Douglas went to.
Ah, right. Okay. So now you're winning me up right now.
See what I did there?
Okay, right. So Jack Elliott's up there. Okay. Right. Any suggestion from you, Jeff?
No, I could picture you I was going to say a Bedoya jersey.
Ooh. Okay. And Tim, what are we saying?
He's the
I said Jack Elliott, but you could always go for some obscure like player from like the first half of the first 5 years or something that like no one really remembers.
This man was subbed in the 68th minute in the 3rd game of 2010.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe like a good old fashioned like a number 10 Danny Mwanga jersey. Like you gotta go like that's a cool hero right there.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I'm stuck. Okay, right. I'll make a decision. I was gonna go old.
I've got it. Oh, Freddie Adu.
Yeah, you know what? Football Manager Wonder Kid. Like you can't go wrong.
Oh my god.
I will surprise you. I'll keep it a secret. I'll order one this week. I'll surprise you. And then by the start of next week or next show, I will do a jersey unveiling as if it was like a real signing.
Honestly, you can't. I mean, like the thing is, like you can't go wrong with soccer jerseys or shirts. Like they literally, like they look like they're like T-shirts.
Yeah.
So you gotta keep the collection going.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I'll add to it. It'll be my first non-Charlton shirt. Other than an England shirt, it'll be my first non-Charlton shirt as well. So it's a milestone in the Liam Howard.
There you go. I love it. All right, guys. Nothing else from you guys?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, guys, that was it as far as the first episode. We did it. We accomplished it. Woo! We talked about this for a couple weeks now. Became the fruition, and we did it. We did our first episode. Liam, if you could, I don't have that info yet, but could you tell the audience where they could find Duke by the River?
Yes.
As far as the podcast stations.
Gotcha. So for the moment, the first episode's always a bit tricky because you have to have an episode up to get it submitted. So eventually it will be on iTunes, Spotify, like the Podbox weird, like the SoundCloud, Google Podcast, basically everywhere that I think Libs in as well. We'll get it everywhere. For the first episode, though, it will be on our YouTube channel and it will be on Spreaker. Those are the 2 places it will always be. There's a good chance Spotify goes up and you can listen to it there straight away. If not, that'll be for next episode. So by next episode, it will have a full run of podcast venues. I can run off like Eminem Rap God at the speed of sound and it'll be fine. But for now, we've got to be a bit boring and say YouTube, Spreaker, and anywhere that works in the meantime.
Awesome. No, well, we will keep you up to date on the social media, and you guys know we're on Twitter and Instagram, both Duke by River. I think on Twitter we're Duke by River Pod. So we will keep you up to date when our episodes go up. And we'll keep you up to date with any Union news as well on there. You guys can reach us out on those as well. Next week we'll put a tweet out so we can start getting some questions. We can start answering some of your guys' questions. We want to hear from you. This is a people podcast. We are here for you guys, essentially. So yeah, we're excited for what's coming. I know, from all of us, the Union team here at PSN, like we have a lot of fun stuff in store for you guys. So that about wraps it up, guys. Guys, first off, thank you so much for joining in. It's fun. Liam, definitely whenever you can. I know it's hectic over in England, but please hop back on whenever you can, Liam.
I'll be annoying you all season long. Don't you worry about that.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right, guys. From everyone at PSN, the Union team, and me, El Parcero Philly, I am El Parcero Philly, telling you guys to do both, baby.